So, without further ado, Arlyn, welcome to MMFM.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Everyone, please give a round of applause for Arlyn. So, Arlyn, obviously we'll get into more details, but we are so excited for your upcoming role in Season 2 of Young Rock. You are one of the co-stars, the big stars of this series.
Yes.
Very exciting. It just so happens that we're partially sponsored by NBC Universal. Ooh. So, estamos entre familia, as they say.
We just got picked up for Season 3.
Wow,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so you play, obviously someone else from our community, Dany Garcia.
Dany Garcia.
So talk a little bit about how you first got this role and how you kind of, just got into this world, really.
How I got the role? Well, I'm based in Miami. I have a studio, where I do my self tapes at home, and I got the request from from casting, and my agent sent it, and I auditioned for it in my studio, and I booked it. I actually had COVID when I booked it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I was sitting in my bed with COVID, and my agent's like, you booked Young Rock. And I was like, what? Because when I auditioned for it, it said location. First of all, when I auditioned for it, it didn't say Dany Garcia. It was like Gabby Diaz. But since I had met 20 years ago, Dwayne Johnson and Dany Garcia, he wasn't even an actor. I met him at the gym with my brother. And then heard about their story. I'd followed their trajectory for a long time.
Yeah.
When I did the audition, I was like, this seems like, she's at Merrill Lynch, she's a broker. I was like, I think this is Dany Garcia. But anyways, I did the audition, and I was like, okay, I was like, I'm not going to go to Australia. Like, are you kidding me? Right. I was like, whatever. I submitted it, and my agent's like, you booked it. And those are the ones you book when you're like, whatever.
Right. I've heard that from actors. Like the one you care the least, or it's like a whatever.
I mean, I didn't care. I cared, but it was more of like...
Is it because it felt more natural and organic? Like you kind of felt comfortable in the role?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I connected with it. I had worked with Dwayne already on Ballers. I was a co-star. It was Tanya, the pharmacist. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I guess, sieved into it. I probably should have sent you my audition tape.
Oh, do you have that? Oh my gosh, it would have been so cool. Or you can audition right now. No, I'm kidding. I'll put you on the spot. But let's take actually a step back now and tell us a little bit more about you and where you're from and how you kind of first got into the acting world.
Okay, so I'm born and raised in Miami, Cuban parents.
Dale.
Yes, Latina. And my dad was an actor in Cuba, very successful. If you were to compare him to anyone, it's, I would say Brad Pitt in Cuba, very, very successful. He came on the Mariel boat lift. Wow. And I remember when I was like 6, 7 years old, I told my dad that I really wanted to be an actress. And he gave me a Stanislavski book. And he said, okay, well, read this book and let me know what you think. And I was like, Dad, this is a little
sure.
too much. But no, I loved it ever since I was very little, and I did some theater in high school, stepped away from it, got married at a very young age, and then about 10 years, I remember, because my background is in business, I started just thinking, I was like, my gosh, what am I doing? I'm like, I need to pursue what I feel in my heart I need to be doing, and so about 10 years ago, I started pursuing acting professionally.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And so obviously now that we understand a little bit, like you obviously it's in your blood, you have a lineage, your father, a great actor. But when you got into it, what was that process like? Obviously a lot of auditioning. Did you make it your full-time job or?
So I'm going to give you the straight story, okay? I'm sitting in my office. I was a healthcare administrator, and I said, what do I need to do? So after I finished my job at night, I looked up, acting coaches, people that I could work with, and then I started working privately with Christina Weiler. She was in a bunch of TV shows and whatnot, and then I auditioned for the theater department at FIU. Did all the performance classes. I didn't finish like stagecraft and costumes and lighting or none of that, but I did performance-wise, and I kept working and auditioning, and what I did was I said, okay, I got to build a resume. I kind of thought of it like strategically. All right, business. I got to build a resume. I got to do my stuff. I got to learn like the basics, the foundation of what this is. Right. And so I started taking workshops and classes, working privately with people. I got into the FIU theater department, taking classes, working, kids, home. It was not like an easy road.
So the whole time you're married with kids,
yes,
and you're doing all of this.
Yes, married 22 years.
Congratulations. That's incredible because it's such an immersive world, as you know. It's so intense, but to do that and balance your family life must have been a challenge for you, right?
Absolutely. So I said, okay, well, how do I get some work under my belt? I went to UM. And I started auditioning for features and shorts for thesis students.
Okay.
Right? And the funny thing is, like, I've booked a lot of big roles with my reel from my independent film work, my student film work that was just very professionally shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Support student filmmakers. See, this is the result. That's
and
awesome.
It was yeah. So what I instead of doing it with like the students that were in the beginning of their studies, I did it with the thesis students that were already like ready to like hit the ground running.
Sure.
And that was definitely something that was a piece that I was like, okay, this is good, because I was able to put work on my resume without actually booking. And yeah, I mean that's basically what that was.
That's incredible. But but the whole time you're in Miami, because and you hear stories that if you're a local actor, there's a ceiling to how far you can go, because all the big parts get cast out of LA. Right. So how did you make it work, being not only a working actor in Miami, but a mom and a wife? Like how?
So I realized that there was a lot of sacrifice I had to put into play. I realized I had to get out of state representation in order to go through the glass ceiling. My first move was Atlanta. I started working with Florida agents, and I said, all right, this is not really working for me. Like, a lot of commercials, a lot of stuff, but I need to I want to get into film. I want to get into TV. And so I started flying out to Atlanta, and I got an Atlanta agent, and I said, listen, if there's anything I need to fly out for, drive out for, I will. And it was that choice of saying, I'm going to do the extra mile, do the extra stuff that other people, that might or might not do. And so that's how it was. And then I was able to get New York representation, Nashville representation. And yeah, I mean, that's what that was. And I said, okay, I bought a camera, lighting. I started building my studio at home to do self-tapes slowly. And that's how that was. I mean, I couldn't leave Florida because I have a family, husband, kids, a life.
Right.
And so I said, I have to make this work one way or another.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So
it's a long road. It was a long vision. It wasn't like, there was a lot of times it was very frustrating. I was just talking to my friend Aniela. She's here in the
Hi,
room.
Aniela.
Hi, Aniela. And I was telling her I didn't book anything for about 2 years before I booked these two projects. So I booked Young Rock, and I booked Gravesend, a New York show. It hasn't aired yet, but it's going to air on Amazon Prime.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you were, again, able to do that locally. So let's talk a little bit about process. And as an actor auditioning, how do you prepare for an audition? Okay,
so how do I prepare for an audition? All right. Okay, so I'm going to break this down because I like things to be broken down like a kindergartner. Right. I receive a request from my agent. Here's your audition. There's the breakdown. I read the entire breakdown. I get the script. I read the script. I go into IMDb Pro. I look at the project, the writer, director, what's the tone of the show, what's going on. Is this a project that fits? Is it aligned with what So after I do all that work, I read the script. I just start reading the script. I read the script. I look at the script and I look at an audition completely different than what I did when I first started auditioning. I feel like every level of a role, as far as like co-stars, recurring, series regulars. So at this point, like I'm reading for a lot of like recurring, series regulars, leads. I think of the audition. I say, okay, how would I shoot this? So as opposed to looking at it like an actor, I was like, how would I shoot this? How would I do this? What do I bring to this? As far as like, the writer is the architect, right? The writer gives you the blueprint to build your house, right? But I am the one that I'm like, all right, I'm going to put a painting on the wall this way. I'm going to put the tile this way. I'm going to do it this way. Because I feel like if I were producing a show, that's how I would, whoever's coming to the table with that kind of role. Because before I would be like, are they going to like this? Is this how they're going to want to do it? Is it? No. Now I'm like, all right, this is how I'm going to shoot it. This is how I'm going to do it. And I think of it in like complete thoughts. So for example, are you asking me from an acting perspective? Because I think I'm giving, my answers are very long-winded.
It's unique what you just said. I think it's a unique perspective. I haven't heard that before, is approaching it almost as if you were a director or a filmmaker, and saying, look, how would, like you said, how would I shoot this, and how can I lend my talents to that? Because that's what a director and a producer's thinking, right? It's like, is this person going to be able to creatively execute what we need and bring it off the page?
Well, I think when you're talking about a lead role or a series reg, I mean, you're heading a show, so it's more of like you got a lot of weight on your back. It's not just an actor that's coming in, despite the fact what they say, well, we're a piece to a puzzle,
right?
But we're a big piece to a puzzle. So it's like, all right, how do I head the show? What do I need to do? And that needs to come off right out of the gate in the audition.
Right.
And I feel that stands out more than coming into an audition or a self-tape with the energy of, is this what, It's
right.
like, you understand the script, you understand what they're trying to say, you do your work, and then you go in with the energy of like, all right, like, I'm here.
Right.
This is me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So at some point you got to let go and say, this is what it is. Right.
Right.
That's incredible. And so let's take it a step back, because I think another key part, obviously, of success, not only as an actor, but in the entertainment industry, is building key relationships, right?
Absolutely.
Along the way. So let's take a step back to that time that you actually met Dany and The Rock. How did that happen? Was that just by happenstance, or?
Okay, so I was at Porky's Gym in the hammocks, if you're familiar with the hammocks of Miami people. And I remember I was a teeny bopper, and my brother was a huge wrestling fan, and he's like, oh my God, did you see who came in? He's like, it's The Rock. You have to go get us out of here. I was like, stop it. I'm like, I'm not gonna go up to The Rock. I'm this man, and he's like, please, I'll do anything. And I'm like, fine, okay.
Right.
So I'm like, excuse me. He was with Dany at the time. Funny enough, I'm having a conference call with Dany in Australia, and I'm telling her the story, and behind the scenes, because she was there, and she says to me, this is a little backstory. She says, right around the same time you met me is when you're playing me. Talk about a full circle moment.
Wow.
Full circle moment. So anyway, so I'm like, my brother would really like, me and my brother are really big fans. We would really love an autograph. And he's like, for sure. And so we go to the front, it's so nice, so charismatic.
Right.
The kind of guy, what you see on social media, on TV. And she was too. Very, very nice, very kind. And from that moment, I was like, wow, I was really impressed. And it's funny because he always talks about like his rough hands, like on the social media. And he had such soft hands back then.
Oh, we're getting the inside gossip here, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully TMZ's gonna pick that up. Rock has soft hands.
Oh, hell no.
I'm kidding. Hold the joke.
I never said that.
but it's funny because that's that first moment, right? That you're like, I guess you're touching stardom, but you're also seeing in your head, as like I said, as a business person, like this is like the seed of something bigger that's coming. But you didn't know at the time.
I didn't know at the time, but the story continues. So that's the beginning of the story, okay? And then the rest of the story is that I begin my acting career. I decided, okay, I'm going to pursue this professionally while I still do my other things. Because, we all have to have our side hustles like that. Duh.
Sure.
And so I remember starting out my career, and I was like, oh my God, $7 Productions, the Garcia companies. I was like, I have to work with these people. Yeah. I admire them. Like, she's Latina, I'm Latina. I'm like, I have to. So I was like, I'm going to send a letter to $7, and Garcia Company was like, my name is Arlyn Broche. I remember telling my husband at the time, I'm like, do you think I should? He's like, send it. What's the worst that could happen? Never answer. So rookie, real green. I started, I'm like, dear $7 Productions, my name is Arlyn Broche, and I'm an actor, and I would love to work with you and to have you represent me. Sending that, I never got a response. It was crickets for years.
Sure.
But I did that. Then years later, I went into Lori Wyman casting. I auditioned for Ballers. I booked Tanya on Ballers, the pharmacist. I worked with Dwayne,
wow.
and it was such a great experience. And then 6 years later, I actually book this role, Dany Garcia, in the story of Dwayne Johnson's life.
Wow.
And for years, I had been like, I want to work with them. This is something I have to do. Like, I feel like I manifested it. Manifesting it with, tied together with work and auditioning and goal and just staying determined. I was, a lot of times, I was like 2 years. A lot of times I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not booking anything. This is not working for me. But, it just kept going.
Well, there's a cliche saying, right? It takes a long time to become an overnight success.
Absolutely.
Right? And now that you've seen that success and we see it, we're so proud of you, obviously, especially as doing it as a Miami. And
thank you.
Like, that's why we're here. And these are the examples that don't give up, right?
Absolutely.
Continue to push forward no matter what's going on in your personal life and your family life, and the fact that you have to be in Miami and not in LA, and you find a way. Right.
Listen, I feel, and thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. I felt that was really heartfelt. I feel that you don't have to be in LA or New York or Atlanta to have a successful acting career.
Right.
Or pursue one, anyway. Right. We're living in a world of self-tapes. We're living in the digital era.
Right.
Even if you are in Atlanta, a lot of times they're going to say, no, send a self-tape.
Right.
So we can all do it. It's possible. It's definitely something that's attainable.
Yeah, no, it is. Everything is attainable, and everything is basically, like I said, putting one foot in front of the other. And like I said, you may not know the ultimate goal. You had no idea in those early days that you running into the rock at the gym, with
20-something years ago
was going to pay off 20-something years ago, right? But obviously, like you said, you kept building on that.
Absolutely.
And getting to where you needed to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that, obviously that's such an incredible thing because, again, speaking to our audience here, that there is something to be said for persistence and not saying, and like Karen Hall mentioned in her writing masterclass, this industry is not a get-rich-quick scheme, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of people turning you down, right?
Absolutely.
Because for every 100 auditions, you book one, and that's great.
Yeah.
That's a great batting average.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that, obviously this conversation could go on forever, but I know that the audience may have some questions for you, so if we can do some Q&A. By the way, that's my family back there.
Hi! Oh my God!
Beautiful wife Sylvia, that's Gabriel, Sophia, and Layla.
I have a Sophia too.
You have a Sophia too! Say hi, guys!
Hi!
There you go. Yeah, they're talented. So maybe this is their audition.
yes, Q&A. So any questions for Arlyn? Just raise your hand, and we have one right over here.
So we're both actors. Creating a reel, you said that you went to the University of Miami. How did you walk straight into the office? Do you go onto the backstage?
Sorry, yeah. Go ahead, finish.
Just all of it, because it's very much one of those things. Putting together a quality reel is what I'm really self-conscious about when it comes to the industry. It's like, oh, look at this cheap, really bad work. That's something that I'd rather put together quality, good reels so that I feel confident when I send it out. Or did you just put it together and you're like, this is the best that I have. Whoever's going to book it, I'll show them I can do it.
Okay, what's your name?
Joseph.
Hi, Joseph. Nice to meet you.
Right.
So what I did, I went to Mandy.com and I Googled. I was like looking student films, feature films, like basically anything. And the reason I chose a UM, I feel like UM has a great film school. And I chose the thesis students because it was like I knew like the camera, like from what I had learned, the tools they use, like the cameras, the lightings, the things that they use are very high end. So the work looks very professional. And in regards to creating a reel, I mean, there's a bunch of websites you can look on. There's people that, I found someone online that helped me develop my reel. If you're familiar with like iMovie, you can do it yourself. The main thing with student films, and it's a little bit better with thesis students because I feel like you're not going to get paid. You'll get, your food, whatnot, but you have to track them for the footage. Once you do that, you're going to notice like I think they were using like red cameras and like really good footage. That's what I've had up until now. I feel a great audition combined with that type of reel. I mean, that's what I did. So
Yeah.
But definitely, because that's a way of like adding things to your resume. And workshops. Look for workshops. There's a lot of like one-on-one NYC, a lot of online workshops that you can take, casting directors. I mean, all that. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
Good question. Over here?
Hi. I saw you in the bathroom and I was like, oh my God, it was her. But great to meet you and congrats. But I have a question in terms of representation because I know you talked about we've been represented in Atlanta, New York, here. And for me, lately, I've heard a couple of things where it's like, don't sign exclusively. But then a lot of Atlanta agencies wanted to sign exclusively for a period of 2 years, drop everybody else. So how do you know, like at what point in time do you consider, oh, is this the right move? Because when you're with one agent, how do you know for sure that they'll like? Because speaking about Lori always says, don't sign exclusively,
Right.
because you want to be able to work. Even if you're, obviously if you're SAG, you're SAG, but if you're like eligible, you want to stay, make sure so you can do non-union projects.
Okay, so what is your name?
Cynthia.
Cynthia, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I just see you in the bathroom. Okay, so I think there was a couple questions in your question.
Yes, representation.
Okay, so representation. I feel that, first of all, I would not sign exclusive with an Atlanta agent. I think if you look at the SAG rules, and don't quote me on this, I think it's 6 months. If you do not book anything with your agent, you're entitled to basically just call them and say, listen, it's not working out. One thing that I did do from out of the gate in my career, I was very intentional about who I worked with, what kind of projects I did. There was projects that I didn't, sign with or not sign with. I didn't audition for because I didn't feel comfortable. But I think it's very important to create a relationship with your agent. And I would even fly out. Like if it's someone that is asking you to do a 2-year, fly out, sit in their office, say, listen, a lot of people, believe it or not, are intimidated or don't want to do it or feel like the agent is doing them a favor. You're bringing a lot to the table by your work ethic. If you make that visible, the agent will say, you know what, I respect this person. They're in the room. That is the energy that you need to take in when working with an agent. And if it doesn't work with that agent, look for someone else. But I wouldn't do a 2-year with an Atlanta agent. I think 6 months. I was signed with an LA agent. We did 6 months. They didn't get anything from me, and it was LA. And I was like, and I was in Miami, and I was like, I apologize. It's not working out with us, for us. So.
That's kind of like the whole thing where it's at right now with who is the right agent or manager to represent you, because we've gone back and forth between different agencies because of that purpose. So it's kind of like there's so much going on in the industry that people are like, oh no, maybe sign exclusively, maybe not. But
I'm going to tell you something. I don't work with a manager at this point. I've worked with the agents up until this point, and I don't think you need a manager right now. I would definitely look for a boutique agency that is going to don't go so much for like the big agents. Boutique, small, mid-level, someone that's going to focus on you, someone that doesn't have someone that is like you in their roster. And the better relationship you establish with your agent, the better they know you. They're going to submit you and pitch you for the right projects. So that's the key thing. It's a strategic move. It has to be very intentional and strategic. Yeah.
thank you.
Great
All right,
question.
of course.
I think I saw one more hand, and then we'll wrap it up. One back here.
Hi, good morning. So I noticed you were talking a lot about thesis films. I just graduated from Boston University and completed my thesis film.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's a bilingual film, but how did you go from working with students to taking those same projects and working with more professionals at a higher level?
How did I go, or how?
Or how did you sort of transition from working on student projects to more professional projects?
I guess the really neat thing is working on student projects. I acquired a lot of insight, and I gained a lot of knowledge, understanding, okay, the lighting, the audio, the camera guy. And that's because when you go on a professional film set, you really can't walk around and say, oh, how is this, or how is that, or what is that? So that was actually a great school, because it helps you, I feel, understand a bigger set as to what's going on, and say, oh, that's the gaffer, okay, that's the lighting, and so that's how, I mean, I don't know, I just did it. I felt like I gained a lot of experience working on student films, because I was able to ask a lot of questions that I wasn't able to do on professional sets. And that's the transition. I hope I answer your question correctly. I don't know what, I don't know. I just stepped onto the set, and I did it.
That's right. We do things and we make them happen. But Arlyn, this has been amazing and such a great conversation. And thank you for joining us this morning. But again, congratulations on all your success.
Thank
and
you.
we cannot wait to see what's next.
Thank you so much.
Give it up for Arlyn Broche.